Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Bit by Bit. Apple launched their big iPhone event a couple of days ago, so thought we'd get the gang together. I've got Daanesh, Kevin, and obviously myself here. So, guys, let's get started with the iPhone. Who's excited about the iPhone 12 first? Shows some excitement. Doesn't look like anyone's very excited in this room.
I mean, I skipped a
I
generation, so I am excited. Yeah.
yeah, I guess that's exactly what it should be exciting for. I think that's all they've aimed for. People who are upgrading from 2 generations ago and before that. I think that's literally everything has been aimed at that. The feature upgrades, the kind of products they've created with the whole four model scheme. Yeah, I think that's all they want to hit.
Well, fair enough. Let's talk about each one of those individually a little bit later on the show. But Apple introduced 4 iPhones this time around, which is the most amount of models they've ever introduced at an iPhone event. So we've got everything from a mini to an iPhone 12 to an iPhone 12 Pro and an iPhone 12 Pro Max.
Yep.
We used to make fun of Samsung for doing things like this, like basically just hitting every single price point and screen size. But we're at a place where Apple is doing that now. Are 4 phones too many, or do you guys think this is fine? It's a good number, or what are your thoughts? Let's start with Kevin on that.
The phones have been slowly just been getting bigger and bigger. I know that's kind of the case for the whole entire industry, but sometimes I'll, because I'm on a big phone, I'm on a 10s Max, and sometimes I'll get like an iPhone 5 or something smaller, and I'll be like, man, this is kind of nice. I think you get kind of this, like sensation when you're used to something so big that having a smaller device in your pocket that has similar features, has a similar camera, screen resolution, stuff like that is kind of convenient sometimes. Sometimes the phone being too big kind of works against you depending on how you use it. So I don't do that much YouTube watching on my phone. I do a bit, but I'm kind of maybe looking forward to the mini one and seeing how that might go. But at the same point, I personally would say like, oh, why don't they have an iPhone 12 Pro mini? It's like there's a fifth spot that I would be like, yes, that's the one. So like I'm on either end of the spectrum, which of course are the ones that are going to be released later. So kind of it works against me, who's impatient and wants to just get whatever is available first, because I'm just been waiting for an upgrade, waiting.
So which would be your pick? I mean, from these 4, like which one are you thinking of getting this time around?
Well, the more practical part of me says the mini. The other one, which is you, Abbas, with a little devil horn saying, oh, the new Pro Max is like almost the same exact size as what you have right now, just get it. So those are the 2 little sides that are on my shoulder right now. So I'll probably end up getting the Pro Max just because I'll end up hitting myself over the head having the underpowered smaller one where I want to have that extra camera, I want to have that extra power. So the battery as well. I know the battery is probably not going to be, amazing on the mini. So.
All right, let me get to the mini in a sec. Let me ask Danish first. Danish, what did you think about, 4 phones at one time, and then pick your favorite one as well? Which one would you choose?
So I think that they went down a very sort of confusing path. Every year, choosing an iPhone has been about size, right? Larger, smaller, features are the same set. Or for the past 2 years, also choosing the cheaper one because you can't afford the expensive ones. I think this year that choice has disappeared. It's not the choice of size anymore. It's the part where I think they've realized that the users are now thinking about exactly what they need, right? So they want you to look at it from that perspective. So I think that's the reason the 12 and 12 Pro have been released together as these like base, all-round, decent, will do the job devices, whereas the Max and the Mini are these, like special devices that the Max is for people who will go for that extra camera, who will go for the screen size, who will go for the battery. And the Mini is for people who've just been waiting for a small phone forever. And I 100% agree that there are people out there who want that. So I think that's how they've gone down. I'm not sure how it's gonna translate, because I think that this was one of their worst presentations ever. as far as pushing the product forward. Yeah, I mean, the visuals were great and all that jazz was fantastic, but I think it took me so long to get all the information together to understand, okay, this is what this iPhone offers and this is what the other iPhone offers, even though it's all very similar and the changes in all of them are incremental. But yeah, ideally, the one I like the most, and unfortunately, like, I genuinely hate saying this, but yeah, it'll be the Max, because like I just want the camera to be at the top level, even though I have very happily moved away from larger phones this whole year, thanks to you again. But yeah, it might just be the Max. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, I mean, yes, I completely agree with you guys that I used to be a small phone person, but unfortunately, my eyes are sort of, getting old, and I hate wearing glasses every single time I want to look at my phone. So I am now going to choose the largest phone that's available out there, which would be the Pro Max. It's just unfortunate. I mean, I love the small size of I've got the iPhone 11 Pro, the regular one, and I was using that for a good 3 months after it was launched. And then, I kind of kept it aside, switched to Android for all the new phones that were available, then went back to it, and I was struggling to read what was on the screen. So I think between the start of this year and, sometimes now, my eyesight's gone for the worse, or at least reading glasses. My regular eyesight's still fine. But yeah, I do need reading glasses for anything which is standard size text now. So, not, yeah.
So you'll get a fancy new big iPhone instead of just spending like 200-300 rupees and getting some nice glasses.
Absolutely, 100%.
Or just changing that setting. You have to just kind of like bite the bullet and accept the fact that you need the font size of my mother, who has everything like twice as big. She only can see like 3 messages at a time in the messages.
Absolutely. Like, my kids look at my iPhone, then they take a step back. They're like, whoa,
why is everything so big?
Like watching an IMAX movie on a small screen or something. But no, I think I'm going to go for the Pro Max as well for 2 reasons. One, obviously the size. And then I think this is the first time around where they've done something different with the camera on the Max. I mean, previously, the Max or the regular size Pro had the same camera. And I think that was the case when they introduced the Plus.
It's like 6 Plus, they started with that. It was like optical image stabilization and stuff like that,
Exactly. So I'm glad that they're actually using the size of the Pro Max now to add some new tech to it. And again, we'll get to, when we're discussing each of these models individually. But yeah, I think I really like the big one. Having said that, man, that little one, the mini, it looks cute. So cute. So
I was just playing with my I don't know where it is, the iPhone 5, the old one, and I just kept thinking that like it's going to be somewhere in this feel. It's going to be a little broader.
Yeah, because that's the design cue they took from that 5 that everyone really liked. So
because the thing is, like people like us usually tend to, even just for work, push the boundaries of the phone a bit, right? But if you're just a generic user, and if you, let's say, have your laptop with you all the time, and you're just not, you're not on your phone constantly, it's such a great phone to have. I mean, I still have 2 friends who use an iPhone SE, because even this year, the original iPhone SE got updates on iOS 14. So they still have it just because of small size. And like, I know a bunch of people who will get the mini just because all they've ever wanted was a tiny phone.
Yeah.
It'll also make sense for someone who wants to have a secondary phone, not necessarily a massive second. Let's say I'm on Android, which I am like 5 months in a year, 4 months in a year, but I still want an iOS device. So I think as a secondary device, I think that also makes a great case for the iPhone 12 mini.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Let's also quickly talk about the other 2 iPhones that obviously aren't new, but Apple's still selling, which is the iPhone SE and the iPhone XR. Now, I thought it was interesting that they've kept the XR on the roster for, talking about pricing in the US terms, you've got iPhone SE for $399, XR for $499, then the mini for $599, the regular iPhone 12 for $699, and then the Pros at $999 and $1099. So, a good range of pricing that they're covered. But I thought it was interesting that they've kept the 10R instead of the 11 at that price point. The 10R was, yeah, not necessarily my favorite phone. I think the 11 was much improved upon. But yeah, what do you guys think about that whole lineup now? Let's start with that.
Sorry. So the 10R was, I think it was a phone that did really well for them. That's number one. I think it's something that they want to keep producing for a while. And I think it's just cheap. So they clearly have noticed that, listen, going cheap works. It just does. The iPhone SE did well. The 10R did well. The 11 did well. So I think they're just like, let's just see if it works one more year. What's the worst? I think that's the basis off on.
Yeah, I guess, but then I'm just wondering that next year what it's going to look like, because obviously the 10R is not going to be there next year because it's a 3-year-old phone. It would be a 3-year-old phone.
Right.
So I wonder what they're going to replace that, that segment with. What will fill it?
But the 11 is still there.
11 is no longer there, right? I mean, they're not selling the 11 anymore.
No, so, it's here. I'm looking at it.
On Apple's website?
Yeah.
Interesting. I thought that they're not going to be selling the 11 anymore. So
I think that's the exact idea, that they will next year remove the 10R, put the 11 in its place, and
enough.
So I think that's what's going to happen.
All right, cool.
But they can't move away from these phones. They cannot. I mean, the amount of people who have been getting into the Apple ecosystem just because of these cheaper phones, it's a number they can't ignore anymore.
No, 100%. All right, cool. So let's move on to what are the common features amongst these new phones, and let's start with the design. So obviously there's a new design, which is the old design, which is a new design. At least on the videos, it looked stunning, especially the stainless steel back frames on the Pro models. I think that looks stunning, and I think the colors on the regular ones look nice too. Blue. If I was to get a color, blue, that would be mine. I thought the design looked quite nice. Yes, it has a little bit of an old iPhone 4/5 look to it, but the iPad Pro, the new ones with those flat sides and edges, I love them. What do you guys think about the design? Let's start with Kevin on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's been kind of saying that this was going to be the case for this revision. It's like they've been kind of, progressing their design and taking cues from certain things that worked well and didn't work well. And I think everyone has, really, been attached to the, newer iPad Pro design. So bringing that to the iPhone, I think, is kind of a blend of the past and the new. Colors, I've always kind of leaned towards like the blues and greens and blacks and stuff like that, so that's pretty appealing. Although the gold, I'm sure, will do very well here in the region. It's probably the most blinged out gold I've seen in a while, but it's still like
Oh my god, it's so bling. It's so bling.
But yeah, and it's really sharp. I think using the edges like that as kind of like both a functional and a design piece is pretty smart, because the curve can be a little tough sometimes to grab onto. I was pretty pleased. I remember when we went from the 4S to the 5, even though the design was similar, I think just like that kind of phone like just lent really well. Like it's a pretty like timeless device. Like if you see a 5 or an SE, you're not like, besides the size of it, you're not like, oh, that old thing. It still kind of holds up in terms of the design.
Absolutely. Just a quick comment on that gold that you mentioned. It's interesting that even on, at least on the Pro models now, it's no longer called, Space Gray. So they've changed that name to Graphite.
Graphite, to match the Apple Watch.
So that's what I wanted to ask. Has anyone looked at the new gold model of the Apple Watch? I'm assuming, is it going to be the same on the stainless steel gold version? Will that match the same color on the iPhone 12 Pro, the gold version? I haven't seen them.
So if I'm not wrong, I don't think so, because it's not as shiny as the 12 Pro Gold. That is just like out there. It's because the thing is, what they did is the same like last year, how the 11 had the glass back, whereas 11 Pro had frosted glass. That same thing exists on these iPhones as well. So on the 12s, the back is regular, like it's got a glass finish and you'll see your fingerprint smudges, but the sides are a little more dull, like the iPad.
Yep.
Whereas on the 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, or rather, okay, 12 Pro is what I saw, the frosted glass is on the back, whereas the sides are super shiny. So even on the blue, while it looks great from the back, on the sides, I have no idea why they went to this ultra shine. Like I get it here, I get it on this curved phone because there's a bit of an illusion because of the curve, but on a flat surface, it's just like, yeah, okay, great. I look nice. I can see myself like reflection. So I'm interested in seeing that part of the design aspect, but yeah.
And what do you guys think about, well, on the Pro side of things, both of them have gotten slightly larger, right? So we've moved from a 5.8 to 6.1, I think, and a 6.5 to 6.7
Yeah.
inch screen sizes. So they're slightly bigger than the outgoing models. I think that's completely fine. I think that's okay. Considering phones are getting bigger, as Kevin, you had mentioned earlier. You know, I think that's a decent direction to take.
Yeah, I mean, if they can cut down on the size of like the bezels and stuff like that, they'll kind of take advantage of it. You know, they're probably working with, you know, just pushing the boundaries a little bit, but not trying to, you know, make it that much bigger. But yeah, I think most people will kind of appreciate the extra screen real estate without really compromising size too much. But yeah, I definitely do. It definitely makes you a little more conscientious of the fact that like the phone's going to get a little bit bigger. But I think like we were talking about, like where people are going to want, you know, the most out of their phone. So if it means it's a little bit bigger, they're probably going to not shy away from it.
Yeah. Did any one of you notice if the bezels have gotten smaller or if the notch has gotten smaller? I mean, I couldn't tell on the video. It looked the same to me, but has anyone read anything about either the bezels or the notch getting smaller, or no, it's exactly the same size as the previous ones?
So the notch is the same size, but I think I remember the bezels being a little thinner. I think they mentioned that in the video, that the bezels are a little thinner. So yeah, because what they've done is they've used that real estate that they got because of the fact that it's flat on the sides. They've used that boxier shape for their internals. So all of this little centimeter on the side that's there with the curve, they've used that so that's why I'm actually interested on the size part, because how much ever I always hated these curved sides, they did add comfort to your hold. So now on a larger phone without curves on edges, I wonder what that's going to feel like, because I recently moved to a 6.8 inch device after forever, like after ages. And I was just thinking about it, holding in my hand, that if a 6.5 inch was edged the way the iPads and all that is, how comfortable would that be on a long term in your hand?
Yeah, that's true. That's something I guess we'll only find out once we get the units.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so moving on to the other common feature, which is 5G. I mean, seriously, I don't know what the hype is about 5G, at least not in the region. I mean, we've tested 5G phones, we've sort of seen them. It's not like a light bulb moment where you're like, holy shit, the speed is fast. You know, even when you go to spots which are, very much 5G friendly, it's not like if I play a YouTube video, I have to wait 20 seconds for it to buffer or load or whatever. I just wait for a second or two and it's on. So at least I don't think there's any current scenario where I feel 5G is super important, at least in our current lifestyles. I get it that in the future it's going to be amazing with all the the low latency that it brings and the connected cars and stuff like that. Yes, I get it, but at least for now, it's not something that excites me. I mean, I could have lived without it. If the new ones didn't have 5G, it wouldn't have changed my opinion on the device one bit. What do you guys think? Let's start again with Daanesh this time.
So I think, well, there's two sides to it. On one hand, if we're talking on a global level, yeah, I agree with you that it's not going to make a difference. It's not going to make a difference for a very long time. I mean, I remember even when 4G integration happened, it took forever to be everywhere, especially in like when I used to go back home to India, that was just like done. Like you were mentally prepared that you were going back to old styled internet. That being said, Dubai is smaller. Dubai has the capability to have that growth happen faster. So I think that people in Dubai will enjoy that advantage a little faster than the rest. And yes, you're right. It's not 5G speeds yet. We're not doing 1,000 MB per second, but even the 200, 400, 600 is noticeable. So I personally did notice it in between when both my phones had 5G just for a bit. I noticed it in regular scrolling, doing some work, uploading on Instagram for work and stuff like that. Small things, I noticed it. But it's the main thing here is that if you had said the same thing about an Android phone, I would have 100% agreed with you, because they're Android phones, right? But an iPhone user keeps his iPhone much longer in most scenarios. So it's not the worst thing for someone to buy an iPhone 12 Pro right now, hoping that by 2022, when they are mostly in the middle of their iPhone use, that 5G will kick in. And living in Dubai, I guarantee that people will see it. Again, not 1,000 Mbps, not 2,000, not 4 GB. I'm just talking about the 400, the 600, the 800. It will be visible to people on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, sure. I get that 100%. But I think moving forward, it's only going to get better, right? And it's good to have. Is it an essential feature to have? That was my question for this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were kind of like cornered into it. It's like everyone else is doing it. They kind of have to kind of stay relevant in terms of, someone who might be on the fence between, this phone and that phone. They want just the most cutting edge phone. And I think there's probably some, kind of industry pressure as well. I think they won't take the step early, as we've learned, from previous years. If it's too cutting edge, they'll skip it altogether. But, I think, 5G it's not mature, but they're not like an early adopter to put it on their hardware.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Dinesh's point too, in that, people will buy the phone and be able to get more use out of it because people will hold onto those phones longer. But with that said, yeah, I mean, I wasn't like, jumping up and down, yay, 5G, but for certain workflows, obviously you're taking bigger pictures, you're taking bigger movies and stuff like that. It will become, very advantageous to have that to fall back onto.
All right, so let me ask you guys this question, and maybe I'm asking the wrong crowd. Given the option between 5G and 120 hertz display, both of which can kill battery, and the rumor is that Apple went with one of the two instead of both of them because of the battery hitting, which one would you have chosen between the two for this year?
You know my answer. You know my answer. I don't care. I really don't care. I think I just told you this the other day. I have not experienced 120. I'm literally the Apple defense that Apple fans have been using for a while now. I have not used it that much, even though I have so many phones, except like my first experience with 120 hertz properly was the Note 20 Ultra of all the phones. So it hasn't made a difference to my life. I don't see the difference. It's not something I saw. Okay, let me answer this way. In 5G and 120 hertz, in my usage in review devices, I saw 5G first, in the sense that I saw it more. I was at the beach, I saw it. I was at a friend's house, I was like, oh, damn, I can see the difference. I was at a random restaurant in JLT when suddenly I'm scrolling through Instagram. I'm like, whoa, I need to check what the speed is. So I saw 5G and it appealed to me more than 120 hertz ever has. So my answer is clear.
You've got the iPad Pro, right? I mean, that's 120 hertz screen. You don't notice that insane buttery smooth scrolling or all of that on that.
I'm not saying I don't notice it. I'm just saying it doesn't appeal to me as a wow, now I can't go back from this. Now again, on my iPad, I will agree with you. As a larger screen, when I had to review the new basic iPad, I noticed it like there. Like I was like, whoa, what is going on here? But when I'm talking specifically about a smartphone having 5G versus 120 hertz, I personally feel like I feel 5G was a fine choice. Like it was okay. It's fine.
Right.
I can wait another year to have 120 hertz on an iPhone.
All right. Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, I probably share the same sentiment in that I can wait a year for it, and that if I do the same thing I did it before, where I hold on my phone for 2 cycles, I'm going to be wishing that I had a phone with 5G after a year and having all these larger files and whatnot. Yeah, like the 120 hertz is a real nice, it's like icing on the cake. But in terms of day to day,
Yeah.
I think you're going to get more out of 5G, especially once things start to take off a bit more. But yeah, I mean, in the back of my mind, I wish I could have both. You get very spoiled with it, but I think most people, already see some of the other qualities of the screen in terms of, the OLED panel, the pixel density, the brightness, all those types of things that kind of stand out on the phone. The refresh speed is a little bit more niche. Some people might not even notice it. It's kind of like your 4K versus 1080 or 8K versus 4K kind of people. Some people are like, wait, this is 4K. I had no idea. Other people are like, oh yeah, I can tell the difference. This isn't 4K.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll tell you that I'm on the other side of this argument. The first time I got that Razer phone, which was an IPS display 2.5 years ago at 120 hertz, I was in love. I was like, man, this is the holy grail. So for me, the display counts more than 5G, at least at this moment in time. But I get your arguments. I think those are some very valid points from both of you.
But Abbas, how does it matter? You can barely see in any so just go back to 60 hertz.
It blurs quicker for him. Yeah.
Gee, thanks, Daanesh. I love you too.
Come on, it was right there. It was right there.
I know. All right, so the final thing that I want to talk about, which is common amongst these phones, is the A14 processor. And I think this processor is the bomb. I think this processor is going to be so good. And the reason I say that is because this is the processor that will also be used in the upcoming Macs that are powered by Apple Silicon. So, first 5-nanometer processor and the ones that will be powering, OS 10 or OS 11, sorry, now. I think that this processor is a game changer. I honestly think so, even though, I don't feel that my iPhone XS is slow or my Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is slow. I think they're just fine from a speed perspective, from a day-to-day perspective. But I think the headroom that this processor has is insane. I think they've always been ahead when it comes to processor technology from Android, compared them to Android World. But I think this is going to take them a lot more ahead than where they have been in the past. So I'm excited about the A14 processor. Kevin, what do you think, considering you're a Mac user and we've spoken about Apple switching to Apple Silicon? So what are your thoughts on the A14?
I mean, I think like computationally, where people are going to see the most things are like a lot of the like AI and like assisted type of computational work that it's going to do. So when you're taking pictures and you're taking video, all those things that they spoke about in terms of low light performance, a lot of those are super heavy on the compute side. So you're going to see them being able to pull a lot of stuff out despite the hardware only changing slightly on the camera side. So the aperture and the actual optics are getting a little bit better, but if they're able to put more compute power in there, they'll be able to kind of make these scenes be more finished for people who just want something that looks good out of the box. I mean, obviously there's the whole entire what is it called, Apple RAW support that's going to be Pro RAW that's going to be coming at some point. But yeah, I mean, we've seen other stuff like this in terms of like deep fusion and other things that this needs horsepower to work. I forget what the number of computations they could do, like 11 trillion or something insane. But that's where people are going to see things when they're doing certain tasks that are taking thousands of pictures in a second, and it's kind of taking all the best out of it and smushing it into one. It's going to happen so quickly, and it's going to be kind of beyond what you can imagine, because you're going to be looking at something dark, you're going to take a picture, and all of a sudden it's going to take the highlights of the horizon, it's going to take the, you know, the midtones of this, it's going to take the shadows of this and make this kind of surreal picture.
Absolutely. Daanesh, your thoughts on the A14?
I mean, their processors were always, their processors have always been crazy. I mean, just the iPad itself is a great example of that. I think that they can't achieve whatever they want to right now as far as at least the Max is concerned. Like, if we just take a look at the Max alone for a second, in terms of a device that is this all-powerful, content creating, huge device, I think they can't achieve it without the A14. That being said, I think the real power and real visibility of the A14 will come out in the Max. I would have said iPads, but that's much later. But I think the real power of it will show in the Max.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Max will have a little bit more cooling space, and I use that word a bit loosely. Is I think the thermals are going to be a little bit better than iPads as well, because you know, they don't need to go as thin as an iPad on Mac. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think we're going to really see the power of the A14 on that. It was just interesting what Kevin was speaking about as far as image processing is concerned and where that power kicks in. So I was watching this review of the Pixel 5 from The Verge yesterday. And one thing that kind of stood out to me was that because it's using the Snapdragon 765G, which is not the highest end processor, I think it was Dieter Bohn who was reviewing it. It was quite an interesting thing he mentioned. He mentioned that there is no neural core on the Pixel.
Yeah, they removed the neural engine. Yeah,
absolutely. So now what's happening is, you know how Pixel used to process photos? Well, all of that is now happening in the cloud. There's nothing happening on the device. So between the time that you take a picture and you actually get to see the result, that time has increased, you know, kind of like how it used to be in Pixel 2 or Pixel 3 maybe, where we used to take a picture and we used to wait for 2 to 3 seconds and then bam, it popped. So that thing is backed on Pixel 5 now, which is weird because you would think that, you know, these devices would have faster processors enough to, you know, sort of compute that. But I guess the iPhone's not going to have that problem with the A14. And especially, I think they've doubled down or tripled down on the neural engine of it, where it's significantly faster than last year's. So that's definitely going to help on that side.
Yeah, and then there's LiDAR too. You have to remember that LiDAR is going to take a ton of processing power to kind of, you know, do something with all that data that's coming in. So I think the A14 is kind of, you know, the reason why, you know, they need something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that 6 times the performance on nighttime autofocus with the LiDAR, that's insane.
Yeah,
that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, they concentrated a lot on nighttime because I think that one, the factor that it wasn't on all lenses was a big issue for them, and two, their addition of deep fusion. I think that they're pretty much showing what Kevin's been talking about, which is they're just showing their raw processing power directly on the device. I mean, I'm very curious. I in no way have the talent to show it, but like I'm very curious to see what people are going to kind of use that Dolby Vision processing for. You know, both Dolby Vision as well as Apple Pro RAW. I'm interested to see that because Apple Pro RAW could go 2 ways. One, Apple's being really nice and says, okay, here's our RAW format, please everyone enjoy it. Or they're creating an all new RAW format, which is going to take time for softwares to start allowing edits and so on and so forth. So that third party level is going to make all that very interesting. But yeah, that's pretty much what they're showing, that they're basically locking us in even further.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let me just ask this question. I guess maybe Kevin might be the better person to ask this because he's more into photography. The iPhone 12 Pro Max, now obviously it's different to the regular iPhone Pro 12. You know, they've actually used a sensor which has image stabilization, you know, instead of just having, I don't know, stabilization on the lens or something like that. So that obviously improves that. And bringing Danesh's point where looking for creative people that will really push things further, my question is that in the last 4 to 5 years, ever since we've seen computational photography being introduced into the picture, Someone who doesn't necessarily know a lot about taking pictures is taking phenomenal pictures. Machine learning is doing that load of work for you where you don't need to necessarily have the eye or the skills to take the picture that people used to 5 years, 7 years, 10 years ago. Back then, those skills were super important.
Yeah.
I think now, computers or machine learning and all of that is doing all of that for you. So the question is that gap obviously is reducing between the pictures that someone who's on the pro side of things versus someone who's an amateur side of things takes. Do you think this will even be a thing 5 years down the road where computation, photography, machine learning is so good that it really doesn't matter what kind of photographer you are, the machine will automatically select the best picture quality, render it, and then give you something that, it won't matter if you're a pro or an amateur at all. Kevin, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting point in that, all of a sudden someone who, might not have a lot of experience can take a phenomenal picture, but I think it's still kind of, very situational in that, I could take an amazing picture that's, framed poorly, or it's still, just the composition's a little bit weird. So there's still kind of some best practices that you kind of learn having kind of doing things the old school way with a regular, DSLR or, any other type of camera. But I think sometimes it's very obvious that, this picture has been, helped computationally, or it's been, doctored a bit to kind of, make it look better than it really is. But yeah, in terms of like the barriers to entry, you have a lot of people who are shooting photography, doing videography with these iPhones, and it's allowing a kind of like a next generation of, photographers and filmmakers to kind of enter the space and compete. So certainly, kind of like your old school photographer, videographer, has to really kind of find new ways to prove themselves. In their craft. So I know I've heard some people say that, kind of disabling a lot of these things and, using, more, natural light and things like that. And, avoid using these kind of, artificial things to kind of prove yourself is how people who are maybe kind of in the midpoint of their journey to kind of make them stand out from the entry level people. But yeah, it's very interesting. For sure, just seeing, even my wife will just like take a picture. She has a iPhone 11, and I'll look at it. I'll be like, "Wow, that's incredible!" And she's like, "Yeah, just holding a baby," and she just like takes a picture real quick. I'm just thinking back, like, 3-4 years ago, that would have been incredibly difficult. But now it's just so easy. But it's just kind of all perspective in terms of what people see, and whether they kind of understand that, okay, this is how it happened, or this person actually, went the extra mile and, maybe edited it after the fact. So we'll probably even see more of that, with the, raw support and Dolby Vision and those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so just kind of moving on to the lighter side of things, and this was undeniably my favorite feature, was the return of MagSafe on Apple phones. Oh man, I love it. I simply love it.
Yeah,
I think it was my favorite feature. Forget 5G, forget the insane camera, forget the new design. That MagSafe was the coolest feature and probably my favorite feature. I can't wait to test that out. I mean, I can't wait to slap my wallet on the back of the phone and just have them paired together. But I think Apple is pretty much the only company that can instantly create an ecosystem out of things. And I can see tons of third parties coming in to sort of create, I don't know, cases, wallets, chargers, whatever else it is that work with this MagSafe. And I'm 100% sure that Android manufacturers will start adapting that in their phones next year, or somewhere around that line as well. But I absolutely love that feature. Daanesh,
No, I love it. I love it because I think that this 100% confirms that they're removing the charging port. Like, it's done for sure. It's done, because this commitment, exactly what you said, they didn't just say, okay, we've just got a small little MagSafe charger, buy it if you want. They were like, no, we've got the whole thing ready, third party, everyone coming in, which means that they obviously have looked at the longevity of this product, because third parties are not going to make chargers if they're not going to be something that's going to be used over the years over various models, because the charger, as long as it plugs onto the next coming phones, it's going to be there. So yeah, I mean, well done them. And like, speeds do have to increase. Like 15 watts is getting a bit old, but okay, fair enough. Like I think that the wireless charger on my desk is 15 watts, and it's okay. But it's nice. It's nice. I can totally see like a little desk with like MagSafes lying there. You're just like plugging a bunch of stuff on MagSafes and just picking them up when you have to leave. But I think it's a really nice concept, because it mixes and matches the world of cable versus wireless. Because on wireless, like you put a phone there, you maybe pick it up for a call, and then you put it down because you've forgotten to put it back on the wireless charger, or you just put it to charge and you have to lift it again. Whereas in cables, you're attached and tethered. So I think they've just merged those worlds well enough.
Fair enough. Kevin, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I have my one opinion now. I'm sure once I see it, I'll feel more excited like you guys are. But like MagSafe kind of brought up this kind of like old time thing that I miss about my Mac in terms of having the original MagSafe charger. And to me, it was like, okay, they're calling it this, but you know, there's that's not coming back to the Mac. This is just something new for the phone. And yeah, I feel like for like the iPad Pro lines, they started moving towards USB-C. And this, like Daanesh was saying, kind of confirms the fact that they're probably just going to skip USB-C altogether and just go right to removing it. But yeah, I mean, I would hope too that like they can squeeze more out of it. It did seem kind of cool, some of the stuff that they could do with having NFC in there as well. So if you have smart accessories, you can kind of tell what's what.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, part of me is excited, but part of me is like, oh man, all the existing stuff that I have right now that holds your phone and charges these things is going to become irrelevant. Yeah, it will work, but if you want to get the most out of it, like all that stuff needs to go out. Car charger, home, the stand, all that kind of stuff. They'll have their own ecosystem. It'll be great, but it's going to be a little bit kind of weird and challenging for like the next year while it all gets kind of moved around and changed.
Yeah.
I think it'll be really interesting Abbas. I think it'll be really interesting for accessories, because the one accessory I've been waiting to kind of figure this one out about is a gimbal, for example, right? The new DJI Osmo 4 is magnet based, right? So the little tip of the phone comes off. So my question is, next year, will the Osmo 5 have a clasp where you just put the iPhone on directly, and so on and so forth? So like now Belkin's working on a car holder / charger, and so on and so forth. So I think this circle happens every little while, where Apple says to all their accessory partners that, guys, we're giving you the chance to make a ton of money, go enjoy yourself. And also it shows Apple's arrogance that they will not put Type-C on iPhone. Like they're like, we will invent a whole category, we will invest billions, we will claim it's for the environment, but we will not put Type-C just because you told us to.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised on that. Well, speaking of all the charging technology, wait, let me first ask Kevin, why do you not think this is going to come to the Mac or the iPad? I mean, Macs are moving to A14 processors, so I wouldn't be surprised if this technology comes back to the Mac and the iPad as well in the next year or two. I think they're just testing the waters right now with the iPad. Obviously, like Daanesh mentioned, 15 watts is very slow to charge a Mac yet, but it will improve. I think we've got 100-watt wireless charging coming out of China over the next year or so from manufacturers. Yeah. So these speeds will definitely improve. I think that we will, in the next year or two, see faster chargers, which will then very easily charge a Mac or an iPad. So let's start with that, and then I'll follow it up with the second question, which is, the removal of the power brick with the new iPhones. So there is no charger in the box now. We kind of knew it was coming. Obviously, Apple claims that it makes the boxes 70% smaller, so they can ship more containers in a box. So the carbon eco-print is much lower. Yes, sure, but I'm sure it's going to show it on your books even more. But yeah, let's start with Kevin with the charger, the MagSafe for the Mac and iPad.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone could pull it off some sort of way to kind of preserve, what they've been doing for the last, like, what is it now? 4 years with Type-C. Like, it's an interesting, proposition. But yeah, if anyone could pull it off, they could pull it off. But yeah, I feel like it's going to piss off a lot of people first before it excites people, because they're going to be like, all of these dongles that I have, or like, okay, now I have this other thing that I need to plug in addition to Type-C. I think it's purely going to be more of a peripheral and phone and maybe, iPad type of thing for the Mac. I don't think that it really could be done. But like I said, if anyone could figure out a way to do it, Mac would do it, but it would not come without the cost of, huge blowback. Just think when, they switched from, 30 pin to Lightning, in terms of everyone being all upset about that for a while, or, them switching to Type-C and everyone being upset about carrying around dongles and adapters. It's the norm now. But yeah, it's an interesting thought. And then segueing over, go ahead, Abbas.
No, Apple's always done that, right? I mean, remove the optical drive, remove the RJ45. I mean, they've always done that. This is not something new to them.
Yeah.
So they'll take that blowback, but then, you'll come up with a solution that in 5 years, you're going to say, oh, wow, that actually did make sense. Yes, there was a rough patch.
Yeah.
You know what? This is so much nicer, so much more convenient.
Yeah. But I mean, you're saying that you're basically going to go back to having, a cable that's purely for charging, and then you have your data cables.
Well, we don't know that.
No, maybe that.
We don't know that. Yeah, we don't know that.
Yeah, maybe
can introduce data, and yeah, absolutely. This is just Gen 1, so let's wait and see.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the implication of the technology goes all the way to cars, right? So your BMWs are testing very similar magnet-based wireless charging for cars. So it wouldn't be the same exact thing where there's a cable attached. Maybe, like, for example, maybe they'll have like something on your desk where you just, when you pop your laptop on it, it charges. Maybe, I'm just throwing it out there. Or maybe this is another step into their dream of having a room where when you walk in, things just start charging. Yep. But yeah, the potential for them to move away from ports, I feel, is higher than them ever coming back and saying, oh yeah, what, this year we decided we'll put a USB-A back, or we'll put more Type-C ports. Not gonna happen. Not at all.
Yeah. But with that said, they totally ran into, the sentiment that, like, once we get rid of something, it's not coming back. The last iPad, the iPad mini having Touch ID again, kind of like got me thinking, like, oh, maybe there's a chance that they'll start adding that to more devices again. So it should be interesting to see whether or not, new generation of Macs have both, or whether or not, next generation of iPhones have both, or whether or not that was just kind of like a quick thing for like for iPad Air, where it was cheaper for them to do that than to put more, optical sensors to do the Face ID. It's kind of an interesting step for them.
No, absolutely makes sense. What do you guys think about not having chargers in the box anymore? I don't think there's no charger, and there's no headphones or earphones either.
The earbuds. Yeah.
So it's literally just the charging cable, which is now a USB Type-C to Lightning, and that's the phone. That's it.
So I think that it's two levels. One, they should have ideally had the choice, or some sort of, they should have at least said that, okay, you know what, on day one, when you buy, not day one, but when you buy an iPhone, if you want to buy a charger, with your purchase, it's, I don't know, $10, something on those lines. Even though, yes, I'll give them credit for reducing the price a bit, but I feel that that's number one, that they should have had just some other option. But then that's not how Apple works. Apple forces you into a corner always, and that's exactly what they want to do. They know that people are still out here using their old USB type A chargers, and they want people to transition away from that. Because if they do that, then people are buying third-party products as well. So I think that that's on one front, that that's what they're aiming at. I personally don't care, again, because I always charging directly from my Mac or on a wireless charger. But I know they'll be a $3 trillion company in like 5 years, and we'll all hate them for it. But I do sort of appreciate it a bit that someone's making some sort of an effort. I don't know if I'm being fooled. I don't know if the true environmental impact is not there, but yeah, it's definitely a move. I mean, forget about the phones that we get for review and stuff like that. I personally, with the phones I've bought, I know the charger is still in the box. Like, I know it. It doesn't come out. Because now, for example, the charger, the very lightning port that's on my bedside is from my first iPad with 15-watt chargers or 18-watt chargers. That's still there on my bedside. So I get it. I get why they made the move. Yes, they'll make more money, blah, 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 blah. But someone has to make such a move.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I'm in the same boat with you. The chargers like literally just stays in the box, never comes out, whether it's a product that's been given for review or purchased, either case, it just stays there. Cool. Okay. Well, I guess we're kind of running out on time. So let me just throw this last question before we wrap things up. iPhone 12 versus iPhone 12 Pro. My recommendation's been for the regular non-Pro for anyone who's sort of looking to get a phone. So I feel that Pro is kind of lost this time around, the regular Pro, not the Max. I feel that the iPhone 12 is now so good because it's got an OLED screen now as well. And, like it's literally just one camera short, I feel, than the Pro. So I don't know if I would recommend anyone to buy the iPhone 12 Pro anymore. I would just tell them to go with the regular iPhone 12. Let's start with Kevin. Kevin, what do you think about this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree. The distinction between the two phones before with 11 Pro was quite a bit bigger, but that also means that people who are buying the 12 are getting more value. Yeah, I think also with the optical choice for the lenses, it's like these guys made the right choice in terms of versus the Pixel. It's like I think a lot of people like can take some pretty cool shots with an ultra wide versus just a regular camera and a zoom. So they're not really that crippled. Getting a zoom lens is not going to help that much. Yeah, maybe a little bit more low light and I think anyone who might get some sort of use out of some of the AR might enjoy having the LiDAR. So that would be kind of another niche group of people who would say, okay, maybe you're not gonna get something out of the camera, but do you have any sort of augmented reality type of use case? They talked about a lot of different examples where they were like mapping rooms and stuff like that. So certain professions might get use out of that for not necessarily personal, but more on a professional level. So that would be my sentiment for that.
Yeah. No,
yeah. Same exact thing on my end as well. I mean, I think the 12 just makes so much sense for almost everybody out there. I mean, out of everyone who messaged me yesterday saying 12 or 12 Pro, I think only once, and literally for a professional reason, did I tell someone that no, go 12 Pro, because that person's in like construction and stuff. I was like, you know what? LiDAR might just be useful, because even recently when I was helping my girlfriend move into her new house, I had my iPad everywhere, like all measurements, everything was on the iPad. The LiDAR worked beautifully. So except for that, I have told everyone to buy the 12. It just doesn't make sense to spend that extra money for the same phone just for the camera, because I'm not sure yet, and I don't think anyone has published it, but I don't think there's a difference in battery either on the two phones.
We don't know that yet.
Yeah, but I think, if my memory serves me right, I read something on the lines of 17 hours on both of playback time. So yeah, just doesn't make sense to get a 12 Pro anymore. And I also think that that's very strategic on Apple's part, because I think the 12 might just be a moneymaker for them this year, because already that line, the 10R 11 have been very popular for them. I also think they strategically planned the release in such a way to push the 12, because the 12 is the more expensive device in the line. Everything, 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max, at least in the UAE, 12 Pro and 12 Pro Max are cheaper, right? The 12 mini is only like 60 dirhams or 100 dirhams more expensive, whereas the regular 12 is 450 dirhams more expensive than last year. So I think that release is strategic for this discussion to happen, whereby, okay, 12 or 12 Pro, I don't really need LiDAR, I don't really need telephoto, done, 12 it is. And the 12 Pro Max and 12 Pro Mini are niche, because the people who want the Max will buy the Max and nothing else. The people who want the Mini will buy the Mini and nothing else. So I think the way they broke down the release was on point, absolutely on point. And
and just looking at the specs, it looks like the battery is the same between the 12 and the 12 Pro. It's only the Max that's going to get a little bit more battery. And I think the only other thing that we didn't talk about that maybe slipped under the radar a little bit, but it's a very, very hands-on thing, would be the ceramic shield front.
Yeah, so is that what, like Gorilla Glass 6? Wasn't 6 the recent version of it? Or what? No, it was called something else. What was it called? Gorilla Glass something.
Something with V. The one that's on Samsung.
Yes, exactly. So that the equivalent of that, I think. I mean, you know.
I think that's what they're pushing against.
Possibly. So I'm usually quite careful with my phones. I don't think I've ever cracked one. Having said that, I used to be very careful with my watches as well. But then over the last week or so, since I've spoken to Daanesh, I just keep banging my watch on the wall. I don't know for what reason whatsoever. Never used to do that. But this guy tells me that I've got a protector on my watch because I bang it everywhere. I'm like, what? I bang my watch anywhere. And now I'm banging my watches left, right, and center. So I'm not going to say that, you know. I'm not going to say that new screen isn't going to come handy. You know, I'll keep an eye on that.
I'm looking forward to the drop tests. You know, inevitably there's always drop tests. 100%. I feel like the drop test industry is going to go crazy with this one for a bit.
Yep, because I do agree that even though it's such a weird claim that they keep making that, oh, it's the strongest smartphone or whatever, glass or whatever they say in the presentation, among phones that have fallen horribly, almost all times only my iPhone has survived. Like even recently the iPhone had an atrocious drop. I was sure when I pick it up I would see glass. I was sure, and it was clean. So I think that adding a ceramic shield will only make things a little better.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I guess that's all that we have for today. Thank you very much, gentlemen. This was an awesome discussion. And I guess we should all return next month, hopefully when new Macs are announced as well. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess anything to add in closing? Anybody wants to add anything, or that's pretty much it.
Good.
Cool.
Looking forward to getting my hands on it. So as soon as that happens, I'll have more to say, and I'll be a happier camper. So
pre-orders start this Friday, and the device ships the following Friday. Unfortunately, we get deliveries over here on Friday. So if you really want a device on the following Friday, you'll need to go to the Apple store to grab, to pick one yourself. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the iPhone 12 event. Thank you very much for being with us, and catch you guys next time around.
All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.